Hi, my peeps, and welcome back to the channel where we find out what kind of dumb stuff the young earthers have to say about their world view today. And we're gonna go back to Eric Hovind. I just love him. So, my last few videos on Eric, before I took a break from Eric and went on to Answers in Genesis and Genesis Apologetics, was about the flood. Because, come on, we all like their excuses about how a mythical worldwide flood was possible 4,400 years ago, even though science literate people know there's no fucking way to have a global flood. But, make fun of it. And hey, throw in some education while you're at it, because, these people need all the goddamn help they can find, and they really don't have much education. So, I'll help you out. At any rate, I'll do my shilling because, come on, that's part of my job. And then, little Eric, you can take it away and spew all the nonsense that you want so I can tear it apart.
So why do people have a hard time? Why would like that makes so much sense to me, and now that makes so much sense to you.
Well, Eric, I have an answer for you. I don't know whether it's the right answer because I'm not inside your fucking head. But my guess is that your dad beat the living shit out of you, and now you're afraid to think for yourself. As for Mr. Chucklehead over here, I think I'll call him Mr. Chucklehead from now on because for the life of me, I really can't remember his name. Honestly, I cannot remember his name. This is what happens when you get old and you already have memory problems. But as for Mr. Chucklehead, my guess is he didn't study evolution very well because he doesn't even know what the fuck it is.
Why does that not make sense to some people?
Well, I think evolution is a religion.
Why doesn't it make sense to some people? Um, because it doesn't make sense at all. I just accepted it because that's what I was taught, Eric. That's usually why people accept shit, you know, except when they bother to learn the explanations for why they believe what they believe. And then people may end up changing their mind. Look, if you want to believe in a God, I don't really give a shit. But believing in God only puts back the problem. You still have to account for where God came from. And no, he just is not an answer. You actually have to, think about these things and do experiments to figure it out. Oh, and by the way, right now, I'm just lumping in all the sciences of origins, astrophysics, cosmology, um, astronomy, that sort of thing, because that's what they're doing. Evolution is not a fucking religion. How many times do we have to tell you people that? The only thing that is clear when you say shit like that is even you see religion as a pejorative term. Look, Logic did an excellent, beautiful breakdown of this. And I have no desire to reinvent the wheel, especially when he is so goddamn exquisite. So here's logic.
Trait 1. Belief in something sacred, for example, gods or other supernatural beings. Aw, you got the very first one wrong. Oh, well, minor setback. Trait 2. A distinction between sacred and profane objects. No, scientific theories ain't in the business of assigning sacredness or profanity. But the closest you'd ever get is really like in your new telescope. Trait 3. Ritual acts focused on sacred objects. Well, that wouldn't make much sense with no sacred objects. And no, using your new telescope every night does not count as a ritual. That's a job, or at worst a hobby. Trait 4. Moral code believed to have sacred or supernatural basis. Nope, scientific theories have no inherent morality, which is why you Christians make that moral argument that says to pretend evolution isn't true even if it is because it has no inherent morality, right? Trait 5. Characteristically religious feelings. Awe, sense of mystery, sense of guilt, adoration, which tend to be aroused in the presence of sacred objects and during the practice of ritual. I gotta say, this one's pretty poorly and vaguely worded, so I'll try to interpret it as well as I can. As I said, there are no sacred objects and no rituals, and so none of those feelings can be triggered by them unless maybe you start to like your new telescope so much that you start speaking in tongues, but I'm pretty sure that's a personal issue. Adoration and guilt don't apply, since you'd have to be a bit weird to feel either of those toward a scientific theory, and I can only speak for myself about awe and a sense of mystery. For me, contemplation of the universe itself may occasionally provoke a sense of mystery and what would better be called wonder than awe, but scientific theories about it resonate with me intellectually, not emotionally. I think that's part of why a lot of people are simply bored by science until someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson comes along to give it some emotional appeal. Of course, what someone feels isn't very relevant to whether something's religious. There's probably someone out there who feels awe and a sense of mystery when they pick lint out of their belly button, so clearly this isn't exclusive to religion. What's more relevant is whether a belief system actually promotes these feelings as important companions to the acceptance of its claims. This definitely isn't true of science, but definitely is true of, say, I don't know, Christianity. Trait 6. Prayer and other forms of communication with the supernatural. You can waste as much time praying as you want, but you're not doing it as a result of accepting evolution. Trait 7. A worldview or a general picture of the world as a whole and the place of the individual therein. This picture contains some specification of an overall purpose or point to the world and an indication of how the individual fits into it. No, and this is another case where the Christians say that themselves in the arguments they make. Just like with the moral argument, there's an argument that this is a good reason to pretend evolution isn't true, even if it is. Evolution doesn't give life a purpose or a point, blah blah blah, so pretend creation is true. Trait 8. A more or less total organization of one's life based on the worldview. Evolution isn't a worldview, but I don't even know what it would mean to organize your life based on evolution. I guess you could, somehow, maybe. I've never met anyone who did, unless maybe you count scientists and students who put in long hours, which would just be silly. In my experience, most people who accept evolution don't give it more than a passing thought, and those who do are mostly scientists or students or enthusiasts, or just people like me who like to expose charlatans like you. But here again, what's truly relevant is whether this is promoted by the belief system. Definitely not true of science, but there's this book called the Bible that has, I don't know, a couple thousand pages telling you to do just that. Trait 9. A social group bound together by the above. Bing! Nah, I'm just kidding. Since none of the above apply, this can't apply either.
Thanks, Logic. Now, to wrap this up by putting the finishing touches on it and adding my own observations to this ridiculous notion that the theory of evolution is a religion, here goes. The theory of evolution is based on observation and experimentation, and that is science. And science, no matter how badly you want it to, has nothing whatsoever to do with religion. And for you to sit there and outright tell me that you think it does tells me that you're either lying because you know what the fuck it is, or you have no idea what you're talking about. And if it's the latter case, then I suggest you shut the fuck up and go back to elementary school so you can learn what the fuck science is and not talk about it until you have a pretty good grasp on the subject. Oh, yeah, and you might want to check out some library books on the theory of evolution because it is crystal clear that you have no idea what the theory of evolution is or states, and it probably would do you some good.
if I could call it that.
Yeah.
And people don't want the truth. They say they do, but their actions clearly show that they don't.
Wow, the projection's strong with this one. You know, I would suggest that you go and think very hard about how what you just said applies to you. You weren't searching for the truth, you are trying to verify something you already believed. Cold, hard evidence and facts guide the truth seeker, not wishy-washy emotional bullshit that you try to throw on your followers each and every day. Please give me a fucking break.
There are a
Right.
lot of reasons why people want to believe in evolution. If you believe in evolution, then you can show there's no God.
Can you get any more wrong? The theory of evolution says nothing about whether there is or is not a God. Plenty of theists, Christians included, believe in the theory of evolution. And why? Because it is backed up by facts. And by the theory of evolution, I mean the real theory of evolution and not your ridiculous straw man. No, evolution doesn't even it doesn't even address where life came from. How can it address a god? Not to mention the fact that science is not in the business of refuting that there is a God. Let me repeat that. Science is not in the business of trying to refute that there is a God. Just because there doesn't need to be, and the theory of evolution does not say either way, does not mean there's not.
And if there's no God, then you're not accountable to a holy God, and you can do whatever you want and think you're okay.
Hold on there, buckaroo. You just made a very big leap in, well, can't call it logic. I don't know what to call it. Anyway, you just made a very big leap. Considering for the moment that there might be a God, who the hell says he's holy? In fact, according to the Bible, he's anything but holy. And why do I say that? Well, it should be obvious, but since it's not, I'll explain. You people excuse your God for doing things that you would never excuse if another human being did it. Okay, so let's take not just the worst serial killer in the world, okay? Let's take all the serial killers in the world. Your God is worse than all of them. And you think that a monster like that is worth worshiping and praising and wanting to be with him forever. Well, excuse me for saying that if that is your God, I want to go to hell. Because I will tell you, that is not good. That is not loving. And if you think it is, then you have Stockholm Syndrome and you really, really need to get some fucking help for yourself.
Reality is, on Judgment Day, you'll probably be rudely awakened, but people think that way.
You're really bad at this. You know, if you're trying to quote unquote witness to the quote unquote unsaved instead of, just preaching to the choir, you need to explain what Judgment Day is. I understand what you mean because I grew up in this shit. But there are plenty of people who have no fucking clue what you mean. Quit trying to ascertain the brain states of your audience and start explaining for once. I'm pretty sure these two men are independent fundamentalist Baptists, and they actually believe in two separate judgments. The one he is referring to is called the Great White Throne Judgment of God, in which the sheep and the goats will be separated. The sheep are the people of God, and the goats are all the people who decided not to follow God, which is a bit disturbing because, God says he already knows who's going to follow him and who's not. So why exactly is God bothering to do this in a great white throne judgment? Also, Jesus said that the goats are the people who did not offer him meat or drink, and not the ones who didn't believe in him. Now, that is in one of the Gospels, and the quote unquote great white throne judgment is in Revelation, but still, why are we saying this again? Oh, yeah, I forgot. It's because you want to scare the fucking bejesus out of every single person who does not agree with you. Well, I've got news for you. Just because somebody does not agree with you does not mean they are not a Christian.
People want to be able to run their lives on their own, and they really don't want God to get involved. This is especially prevalent in the sexual area. People want to do whatever they want. And they think when we say that the only place for sex is in the sanctity of the marriage bed, we're being prudish. But God, if his word says it, that ends the discussion. But people still try to get by without God. And evolution gives them a convenient out.
People who want to live life on their own terms are called sociopaths or psychopaths. And no, they're not always criminals. And no, it's not always a bad thing. A lot of CEOs are sociopaths. So get over it. You are not talking about most people here. You are talking about anarchy. And anarchy would be very bad for social species such as ourselves because we need each other in order to survive. I don't know why you would single out people's sex lives as an example of this. Actually, yes, I do. But that's neither here nor there. It is none of your goddamn business what two consenting adults do in their own bedroom. So get the fuck over it. And your claim that sex is to be between a man and a wife in a marriage is biblical, is horsepuggy, because you do know that at the start, a man and a woman fucked before marriage. In fact, that is how they got married. They fucked. They were not married until they fucked. As for the marriage bit, uh, a man was allowed to have concubines that, by definition, were not wives. So, no, it wasn't just for marriage. I feel like we just jumped train tracks right in the middle of a conversation. Um, what the fuck does sex and marriage have to do with the theory of evolution, which, by the way, is supposed to be, but not, the subject of this video? Come on, stick to the subject. Did they teach you to gish gallop in apologetics school? Because that's what I hear a lot from apologists. Nothing but gish galloping. Or is that something you just picked up from your heroes, Kent and Eric Hovind, and the master of gish gallop himself, Dwayne Gish?
But God If his word says it, that ends the discussion. But people still try to get by without God, and evolution gives them a convenient out.
Bullshit, fucking bullshit, fucking bullshit, holy shit, oh fuck it.
Wow, that was a bunch of bullshit in 2 sentences, I think. So let me parse this out for you, okay? First of all, which God and which word of God? You haven't even begun to try to prove that there's a God, let alone that it's your God. Of course, I understand that you're preaching to the choir and you don't have to do that. But you know what? You have to do that for us. Also, you say the Word of God says it. Now, the Muslims believe the Quran is the Word of God, and the Quran probably has something about marriage and all that shit. But they also let their men have concubines. So, what about the Quran? And finally, how many times do I have to tell you people that there are plenty of Christians that believe in the theory of evolution and the Big Bang? In fact, it seems that only you people who insist on being backwards do not believe in it. As you can probably tell, these people have no clue what the fuck they're talking about. They do the creationist gish gallop. The Big Bang is not evolution. Abiogenesis is not evolution. Can we please stick to evolution? But the only thing they have in their corner is the great creationist gish gallop. And this is one reason why I do not debate, period. It's because they like to gish gallop. Another reason, I'm just not good at it. Maybe next time we can actually stick to the topic of the theory of evolution. I highly doubt it, because sticking to one subject isn't a creationist strong point. But at any rate, we shall see. But yeah, I did predict they would gish gallop. Also, my prediction that they would bring up things that have already been explained or are in the process of being explained did come true, because they brought up the nothing comes from nothing, which is absolutely false. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and also please comment down below. It does help the algorithm, and I love all of your comments, and I read all of your comments. Also, I have a channel on Odyssey now, link in the description. So if YouTube ever gets a bee in its ass about something and they cancel me, then you can find me over on Odyssey. And thank you very much for coming. Have a nice day and goodbye.